Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today with me is Sean. Sean, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Sean Maguire with Synivate here. We're a managed IT service provider. We've been in business for over 12 years, and I started the company in 2011.
Mhm. Excellent. And you have a lot of flexibility at your company. You facilitate a lot of remote work. Tell me a little bit about that and how it's working out for you.
Yeah, so I mean, looking back to 2011 when we started the company, everything was in
Mhm.
person, right? So it was
Mhm.
100% in person. And as time progressed, there's just in the IT industry, there's kind of a need for remote work because
Mhm.
the hours tend to kind of push a little bit past the 9 to 5. And so with
Mhm.
that comes remote work naturally. And
Mhm.
so really, as soon as COVID came around, we of course moved into remote work, and
Yeah.
we really just haven't looked back. It's really just it's been incredible for the
Mhm.
organization. We've had nearly a flawless retention rate amongst the
Wow.
team, and it's really helped to. It's interesting, but it actually has helped
Mhm.
to build internal team rapport, and it helps really set
Mhm.
and define limits across the team. So it's been great.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit about how you're building team rapport. Here's why I'm asking. A lot of companies that are coming back to the office, including tech companies like Meta and Amazon and Zoom, are saying they want to come back because they're having trouble with collaboration. Yeah, Google, Apple, so team rapport, collaboration. What have you done that's different that helped you build up team rapport?
So I think a big thing for us is core values, right?
Mm.
So it's all about core values, and our core values as a company, extreme
Mhm.
ownership, customer satisfaction, teamwork, following
Mhm.
processes, being resourceful. If the team knows what the core values are and they're all aligned and we
Mhm.
can reward each other on core values, it really helps
Mhm.
build our relationship. So, this happens throughout the week, but we heavily use Slack, and that's really how
Mhm.
we communicate. And so, we have some plugins that have been created in Slack that are basically revolved 100% around core values. And so,
Okay.
when somebody sees another team member doing something that aligns with our core values, they reward them with
Hmm.
sort of an internal comment, and it's directly related to the core value. So
Hmm.
if they're, taking ownership of something for somebody else, they might make a comment like, "Hey, thank you so much for doing that. You're exercising extreme ownership and teamwork." And when somebody looks at that, you might I guess it really depends on the size of the organization, right? That might work for small
Hmm.
organizations. It might work for large organizations.
Mhm.
You don't want too much activity going on because then it can sort of distract things. So we
Hmm.
really actually today's Friday, and we do Feedback Friday, and this is really one of the things in the afternoon
Hmm.
on Friday that we really try to make sure everybody is rewarding somebody else on the team and just showing how much they appreciate what they're doing and aligning with core values. So it really boils down to that for us.
Interesting. So, how many people do you have that you're able to manage this? You're saying large companies, small companies. What's the size of your company?
The size of our company, we're under 10 users, under 10
Mhm.
employees. Our
Mhm.
clients are anywhere from 25 to 30 employees all the way to 1,000 plus
Mhm. Mhm.
employees.
And so, with 10 employees, you're finding that you're able to provide that feedback and that it's with these values. Are you using anything differently? Did you do that before COVID? In other words, are you changing things around that to facilitate more remote activities in this setting?
We didn't do it before COVID. No, we really
Oh,
didn't
okay.
do that before COVID. This was
Mm.
there when we started moving remote, we realized that we needed to implement some changes
Mm.
and to really increase communication. And so
Mhm.
I think as a result of going remote, being
Mhm.
kind of forced into that position, it forced us to adapt a little bit and to make some
Okay.
changes. So I think for us, the results, speak for themselves.
Mhm.
But being in person in the office, I mean, hey, there's nothing like face-to-face communication. And so we
Hmm.
do obviously, every once in a while we will get together in the office. I mean, of course, the holiday parties and,
Hmm.
we've recently had everybody in the office for an event, but
Hmm.
it's very rare, maybe once or twice a year, if that.
Hmm.
And so if we can get to that, when we get to those situations, we realize that it's like everybody, it's just so easily distracted. People are easily
Hmm.
distracted in the office,
Yeah.
especially with the open office framework that I
Hmm.
think most companies have adopted. There's
Sure.
no more, closed door offices. It's all open office. And so it's super easy for somebody to be, to lose their train of thought, to lose their
Hmm.
focus when somebody just walks up to them. And so having these huddles and sort of just off the cusp, hey, let's jump in a huddle in Slack and let's
Hmm.
verbally open up a communication channel and we can talk, we can work while we're talking. But it's really it's a very different
Hmm.
workflow. And I think some companies, yeah, it might work really well for, some
Hmm.
maybe not so much. But I think if you have the right mindset, you can
Hmm.
definitely make it work.
So it sounds like that Slack channel with rewarding values, reinforcing those values has been important. Tell me a little bit about these huddles. So, what does that involve? I assume that's something also that you developed when you started doing remote work. So, what does it involve to go into a huddle and not actually talk about, not actually collaborate on a project, not have a meeting? What do you actually do in a huddle when you're not having a meeting?
So a huddle in Slack is essentially the virtual office form of
Hmm.
standing up at your desk and saying, "Uh-oh, I've got a problem. I need some help."
Hmm.
It's not so much, well, sometimes it's like, hey, you just walk over to somebody's desk and you say, "Hey,
Hmm.
can you help me with this?" Or "What do you know about this account?" Or "What do you know about this?"
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's sort of how the huddles are being used for, but in the office setting, back when we were in the
Hmm.
office, we would probably have, if you classify these huddles and you equate them to walking up, a walk up as we call it at somebody's desk, maybe 20, 30 of those might happen a day in an
Hmm.
office of 10 people. But huddles in Slack, they're a little more reserved. And so maybe that only happens, 5 or 6 times a day max. And so everybody sort of understands that there's like this sort of unwritten rule around how important is this to really bring into a huddle.
Hmm.
And so not every little thing gets brought up into a huddle. So
Okay.
it sort of makes it a lot easier to, makes it more difficult to take away from somebody's time, right? So if somebody's
Hmm.
focused on something, they can jump into a huddle, but they're maybe not going to do that all day long. They're going to maybe think just a little bit about, should we jump into a huddle and talk about
Hmm.
this? And, for us, a lot of times it might be in our business and IT, might be a system down, clients down, things are
Hmm.
not working. So we might jump into a huddle and say, hey, what do we do here? You're going to work on this. I'm going to work on that.
Okay.
Naturally, it's like running into the conference room, only
Mhm.
everybody doesn't have to pick up their desks and move, and they still have 2 monitors, 3 monitors.
Mhm.
And so it's just the productivity is you just can't compare it to anything. I mean, it's like
Mm.
when you have your setup at home and this is your setup and you've got your screen set up how you want them and
Mhm.
you're in the comfort of your home, it's you get a little bit more productivity out of this because
Mm.
things are set up your way and you're not being distracted. But I guess you have to have the right mindset, right? And if we have
Mhm.
somebody on the team that's not motivated and wants to just maybe do the bare minimum, they're probably not going to excel at remote work. So I think you
Oh.
really need to enjoy what you're doing, and you really need to have that culture that really helps thrive, and that's really what makes a
Mhm.
difference.
So it's interesting. Tell me a little bit more about productivity because a lot of companies are concerned about productivity while their staff are working remotely. Mark Zuckerberg was saying that he's finding the productivity of junior workers especially suffering who are recently hired. What have you found? It sounds like that's not your experience in terms of productivity at Synivate. Tell me what you have found overall about the impact of remote work and productivity.
We're not seeing a decrease in
Mhm.
productivity when it comes to remote work. If anything, we see a little bit of an increase
Mm.
because things tend to, at the beginning of the day, they tend to start a little bit earlier, and at the end of the
Hmm.
day, they tend to end a little bit later. And
Hmm.
in terms of measuring productivity for
Yeah.
us, it's pretty straightforward to measure productivity. We're measuring response times when it comes to
Okay.
clients. We're measuring how often projects are being, delivered on time.
Hmm.
We're measuring customer service satisfaction, and all of these items, all of these KPIs, when you
Hmm.
look at them and you compare, how we were doing before COVID and after COVID, you can clearly see that in certain situations, exponentially, these numbers have increased. In some
Hmm.
situations, they've kind of stayed around the same, but
Hmm.
we're definitely not seeing a decrease in terms of
Oh,
productivity. And
excellent.
everybody holds each other accountable. And again,
Hmm.
small team. So it is very easy to identify if somebody is not necessarily,
Hmm.
checking in and paying attention. I think if you have 500, 600 employees, you could definitely have a few individuals that sort of fly under the radar.
Hmm.
And so maybe that could be an issue. Yeah,
Hmm. Well, I guess it depends on the manager of each smaller team to be hold their people accountable, right?
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I've helped 25 companies by now figure out their return to office policies, hybrid work, flexible work, and it really does involve training managers to manage effectively. And sounds like you are the manager and you're managing people quite effectively. But of course, managers who don't have your skills and abilities need to be trained in how to manage people in a hybrid setting, in a remote setting. Now, one thing I wanted to come back to was the office question. So you said you get together in the office maybe once or twice a year. So why do you need an office anyway if you get together once or twice a year?
So we have an office for shipping out client inventory laptops. So we provide a service for our
Hmm.
clients.
Okay.
Coincidentally, most of our clients are 100% remote. And
Hmm.
so, well, maybe not most, but a good majority of them are mostly
Hmm.
remote, right? So we work with a lot of clients in the digital media space, and they tend to be, most of them are a remote workforce, and they don't really have a need to be in person. And so for
Hmm.
us, we're maintaining, several bins of inventory of their laptops so that when they
I
hire
see.
somebody, we can get that laptop out to that remote person.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword for us. It's, we're remote, we're working remote, but and our clients are remote, but sometimes we do need to be in person. So it's pretty much
Mhm.
a very lightweight crew that we'll have in the office to just maybe provision some laptops, ship the laptops out, things like that. But 90% of the team is going to be remote 95% of the time.
Okay, good. That helps. So you've been observing clients support their staff members with technology. What have you found in general is the kind of support that your clients provide to their staff members, their remote staff members with technology? What have you seen as the best, some of what they do, and compared to that, what would you say are best practices? I'm sure different clients provide different things.
Yeah, great question. So, what we've observed mainly really since COVID and since going remote with a lot of our clients that are going remote is that during the HR/IT onboarding process,
Mhm.
there tends to be some gaps. And so
Mm.
you submit an application for for a company, you go through the interview process on Zoom, you get hired, you get the offer, and your start date is 2 weeks from now, and they ship you a laptop. And you get the laptop, you sign into it, and you're maybe having a meeting with one of your managers trying to show you your systems, and you might not know where everything is, and things tend to
Mhm.
be a little confusing and maybe get off to a bumpy start because somebody's not there to actually hold your hand and kind of walk you through it, right? Get started
Yeah.
first day one. So what we've really tried to do for our clients is create an onboarding process that
Mhm.
really provides that client a white glove service throughout the whole
Mm.
workflow. So let's say the client, they have the software system for accounting, they've got a software system for
Mhm.
CRM and all different systems. So we'll send welcome emails when we set up that user from an IT
Mhm.
service management point of view. We'll send welcome emails and say, hey, here's access to this system. Here's how you use it. Here's how to contact us for help.
Okay.
So our clients are hiring us to do all the IT responsibilities, but
Mhm.
we're really trying to go above and beyond and provide a little bit more and not just say, okay, well, we're here, we're IT, Well, no, not necessarily, right? We want to provide a little bit more than
Mhm.
that. So it's the onboarding process that's really been helpful for us. So I think we've helped a lot of
Mm.
clients with that. And we do have some case studies that are on our website and that are coming out on our website to talk about it. And yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. And as we finish up, what do you think is the future of providing this sort of support for remote companies, for companies that have either fully remote or have some of their workers working remotely? What do you think is the future? What kind of changes do you envision?
I think as we continue to move forward, I think we're just really
Mhm.
moving towards more SaaS solutions in
Mhm.
IT, and so basically that means users. There's no legacy applications. Everything is all websites and logins, and it's one username, one password to get into everything. And I think part of that involves really automating everything. So the future is automating the
Mhm.
onboarding and offboarding processes for new organizations, bringing in team members. They need to be automated, and so automating that process provides for a very clean startup for a new user, and so they really feel comfortable starting at that organization, and there are no questions day one. The worst thing is having somebody start at a company and their first day is like, well, how come I don't have access to this system or that
Yeah.
system? It really starts things off. So I think automation is the
Mhm.
future, and that's really what we're working on.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, Sean. That was very helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show and it helps us improve the show. All right, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. In the meantime, the wisest and most profitable decisions to you, my friends.